So this is question number 45 of question paper set A. Set A. And the question says that consider the following dynasties. Okay, 4 dynasties are given here: Hoysal, Gahadavalas, Kakatiya, and Yadava. And the question asks how many of the above dynasties established their kingdoms in the early 8th century. Okay, so look here, this important hint here: early 8th century AD. Okay, and there are 4 choices before you. Okay, now this question is a very simple question. If you have a basic idea, general understanding about the chronology, of important dynasties, chronology of important dynasties, you can easily solve this question. Now, you can solve this question, okay, from 2 perspectives. First, if you have prepared ancient Indian history well, and if you are familiar with all the important developments, then you can easily solve this question. If you are familiar with the important dynasties during this post Gupta and early medieval phase, you can solve this question. Plus, if you have a good understanding of medieval Indian history, then you can also solve this question. Okay, now I am going to discuss the context. How can you solve the question? Okay, so now there are 2 methods by which you can solve the question. First, if you have a general understanding of ancient Indian history. Now I am coming to discuss some important dynasties in ancient Indian history. For example, you must have studied in ancient India Mahajanpad era. Okay, it extends from 600 BC to 300 BC. This Mahajanpad era is also known as the era of state formation. We all know this. Okay, in Mahajanpad era, we also have studied about the system of republics. We have studied about some dynastic rule and empires too. Dynastic rule and empires too. The number of states in Mahajanpad era has been mentioned as 14th, 16 by Anguttar Nikaya. Anguttar Nikaya mentions the number of states as 16. Now look here. Here you have studied about the dynasties like Haryak dynasty, like Shishunag dynasty, like Nanda dynasty. So all this is in chronology now. Okay. Now come to the next important dynasty in ancient India. Okay. So this is Mauryan Empire. Okay. The time period, the general timeline of this Mauryan Empire is 300 BC to 200 BC. This is not an accurate timeline. This is a general timeline to discuss the development. And we see a very famous dynasty, and this dynasty is what? Mauryan dynasty, right? And after this Mauryan period, we see another important dynasty. After this Mauryan period, we are seeing at another important dynasty. And what is this dynasty? This dynasty is later Mauryan Empire. Okay. It means there is a lack of a central political authority and there are various group of rulers in later Mauryan period. So again, the general timeline is 200 BC to 300 AD. And you must have studied about different group of invaders during this phase. For example, they become rulers also. Indo-Greeks, Shakas, Pehlavas, and Kushana. And we all know that these invaders, okay, these groups become Indianized also. Okay, they are fascinated with Indian culture, achievements. They are coming from a place where they don't have the basic or foundations of a religion, script, and all these things. So they are fascinated by Indian culture, and we see this Kushan is the most Indianized group among all. Most Indianized group among all. So they become Indian rulers also now. Okay. Now, in the same phase, you must have discussed about, or you must be familiar about the local rulers group. So there are 2 groups here. One is Sung, second is Kanva. And in South India, okay, especially in the regions of Deccan, we find another group, and this group is Satavahanas. So this is the third group. So these are important rulers here. Okay, Shakas, Pehlavas, Kushana, Sung, Kanva, Satavahanas. So these are important rulers. Now, when we move ahead, okay, we find some more dynasties. Okay, for example, From later Mauryan period, we are shifting to which period? We are shifting to Gupta period. Okay, so the name itself indicates what? That there is a powerful central authority here. The time period is again 300 AD to 550 AD. Okay, and in Gupta period, we see important rulers. And what are these rulers? Again, you are familiar with these names. North India, most of the territories of North India captured by whom? Guptas. Okay, and at the same time, what we see here are Satavahanas na, in later Mauryan period. There are other powers also, but these are important political powers. So we see Vakataka rulers. Okay, so here we see Vakataka rulers. Vakataka rulers. Okay, so this is Gupta period. Now again we move to post Gupta. Post Gupta era. Post Gupta era. So what are the important dynasties here? Post Gupta era. So the time period, general timeline, we can consider 550 to 750 AD. This is post Gupta era. Okay. So North India, Guptas are replaced by whom? By Pushyabhuti dynasty rulers. Guptas are replaced by Pushyabhuti dynasty rulers. And one famous ruler is Harshvardhan, right? Then we find another important power here, and this is Maukharis. This again is a previous year question of UPSC. Maukharis. So Maukharis is an important political power. Okay. And when we come to South, okay, at the same time, we find some important political powers like Pallavas. We find some important political powers like Pallavas, like Chalukyas, like Chalukyas and Pandyas. Pallavas, Chalukyas, and Pandyas. So these are the important political powers here. Okay. Now, when we move to further, for example, you must have heard about this term early medieval. Early medieval. Okay. So when we say early medieval, it means it counts the event from 7th to 12th century. 7th to 12th century. It means this is also a part of early medieval. Okay, we don't find the mention of any ruler. This is what? 8th century AD. We don't find the mention of those names that are asked in the question. Now look here. After this 750, what happens? This also is important. In North India, we see Gurjar-Pratihar as important powers. In North India, we see Gurjar-Pratihar as important powers. Important powers. Okay. And in South India, we see that Rashtrakutas has been immersed as an important political force. So in South India, we see Rashtrakutas has been immersed as an important political force. There are Pala rulers also in the regions of Bengal. Okay. So in North India, South India, Rashtrakutas. Plus, there are mighty Chola rulers here also. Mighty Chola rulers are also present. Okay. So Chola rulers are also there, right? So this is an important concept. Now always remember, when we say Chola rulers, they also find mention in the Sangam period. Okay. It means that Ashokan inscriptions also, they found mention. So Chola rulers, they have a phase of imperial dominance. Okay. So this phase of imperial dominance of Chola is counted from 9th century onwards. It is counted from 9th century onwards, and it is counted till 13th century. Till 13th century. This is the phase of dominance of Chola rulers. So whatever the Chola rulers have important achievements, these achievements belong to this period. But Chola rulers are present before this also. In the same way, on the same concept as we discussed Chola rulers, okay, we find that there are some more rulers. For example, Chalukyas. Chalukyas also have the same concept. They have two phases of imperial dominance. Okay, Chalukyas. Chalukyas. So Chalukyas are also an important power from 6th century AD to 13th century AD. From 6th century AD to 13th century AD. So what happens in 13th century AD is that the power of Cholas started declining It means Chola state disintegrated. Okay. It means that Chalukya states, Chalukyas, their power also started declining. Cholas, Chalukyas, their power started declining in 13th century AD. So when their power will start decline, what will happen? New kingdoms will come into existence in South India. Okay, so various new kingdoms come into existence. Okay, in South India during this period. Now, look here, in this entire developments, do you find the dynasties or the rulers which are mentioned in the question are you find? No. So in GS classes, basically what you study is the developments of these dynasties in ancient India. So in early 8th century AD, you find no any mention of these rulers. So you can easily conclude that the answer will be none. Is it clear? With a simple smart guess, you can reach at the answer if you are familiar with important developments in ancient India. If you are familiar with the basic informations in ancient India, you can easily reach at the conclusion. Now, there is an important aspect that if you are familiar with the important political developments of medieval India, you can also solve this question. Okay, so we are going to discuss those important aspects. First, you have to remember that when we are talking about Hoysala rulers, okay, so their period of dominance can be counted from this 10th to 14th century AD. When we talk about Gahadavala rulers, so 11th and 12th century AD, this is the phase of their imperial dominance. When we talk about Kakatiyas, it means again we are talking about 12th to 14th century AD. And when we are talking about Yadava rulers, again we are talking about 12th to 14th century AD. Okay, I will discuss the context. Okay, now looking at these developments, we reach at the conclusion that the answer will be none. These are the important political powers. Okay, of these centuries from 10th to 14th century. Now, in which context the question has been asked? So first understand that three of these states, for example, Hoysal, Hoysal, first is Hoysal, the second is Kakatiya, and the third is Yadava. Okay, these three states are related to, okay, related to the Alauddin Khilji's Deccan conquest. Okay, this is related to the Alauddin Khilji's Deccan campaign. Hoysal, Kakatiya, and Yadava. Okay, uh, and the Gahadavalas. Okay, this we found reference. Okay, Gahadaval belonged to a, you can say that, Rajput dynasty. Okay, so Muhammad Gori was resisted by Gahadavala rulers. Raja Jayachand, you must have heard this name. So this is related to, okay, Muhammad Gori and the conflicts with Muhammad Gori. Okay, so now we are going to discuss the aspects of these dynasties and the states. Important informations about these dynasties and states. The first state which we are going to discuss is Hoysala rulers. Hoysala rulers. Hoysala rulers. The first important state that I am going to discuss with you is Hoysala rulers. Okay. Now we all know that Alauddin Khilji was determined to complete his Deccan policy, how he acquired the throne, and he was supported by Malik Kafur in his Deccan's campaign. We all know this, that he was supported by Malik Kafur in his Deccan campaign. Okay, so when they made this campaign to South India, they captured a capital. The name of the capital was Dwar Samudra. So they captured this capital, and the name of this capital was Dwar Samudra. Okay, and this capital was the capital of Hoysala rulers. This was the capital of Hoysala rulers. Dwar Samudra was the capital of Hoysala rulers. It means Alauddin Khilji defeated a famous Hoysala ruler. The name of that Hoysala ruler was Bir Ballal III. Okay, so Alauddin Khilji defeated Bir Ballal III. And what is the important point is that he defeated Bir Ballal III. He just reinstalled Veer Ballal III, and Veer Ballal III agreed that he will pay the tribute to the Alauddin Khilji. It means Alauddin Khilji did not establish direct control over the state. Okay, plus what Alauddin Khilji did, he plundered, okay, famous temples of Dwar Samudra. He also obtained a vast amount of gold, silver jewels, and pearls from this state. Okay, it means what? The most important motive here is what? Plundering economic resources from these Deccan states. Now, the next important state is Kakatiya. Kakatiya. So this is Hoysala, and the next important state is Kakatiya. Kakatiya. So let's discuss a few important information about these Kakatiya rulers. Again, it is related to Alauddin Khilji plus Malik Kafur Deccan campaign, and they captured another capital, and the name of this capital is Warangal. 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 So this was the capital of Kakatiya rulers. Warangal was the capital of Kakatiya rulers. This event is in 1310. This event is related to this year 1310 and 1311. So Warangal was captured. Capital of Kakatiya was captured. And what they did, again, they plundered important economic resources from Kakatiya. Okay. Now the next group of ruler is Yadavas. 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 These are the next important group of rulers. Okay. Again, what Alauddin Khilji did? Alauddin Khilji attacked a famous capital. This is known as Devgiri. And Devgiri was considered the capital of the Yadavas. He attacked this capital and he defeated Raja Ramchandra of Devgiri. He defeated Raja Ramchandra of Devgiri. Raja Ramchand. And what he did? Okay, again what he did not establish direct control over the state. Reinstalled the ruler. Okay, and the ruler agrees to pay the tribute. Okay, it means he did not establish the direct control over the state. Now, the one important point to understand is that these different states which Alauddin Khilji is capturing, okay, they lack what? The political unity. They did not try to develop this political unity among them to fight the single enemy. So this is one of the most important weakness. Now, why Alauddin Khilji was motivated to complete his Deccan campaigns? Okay, so there are different opinions about this. The one important opinion is what? Plundering economic resources. But some scholars like Amir Khusro also says that the motive of the Alauddin Khilji's Deccan campaign was to promote the light of Islam, or to promote the Islam religion in Deccan. So there are different opinions, but what can we say? That plundering economic resources was more important, and Alauddin Khilji was determined to use Deccan as a milch cow. It means to get the resources from Deccan and utilizing it in north for its territorial expansion. And Alauddin Khilji followed a very special policy towards these Deccan states. And what is the policy? The policy was not to establish direct control over these states. Is it clear? Defeating these states, appointing local rulers in these states so that these different states could not develop as different centers of revolts and rebellions. Okay, so these three states are related to Alauddin Khilji's Deccan campaign. Now, Gahadavala. Again, we come to these Gahadavala rulers and the state. So, Gahadaval. Let's discuss this Gahadavals. This state also. Okay, so I have discussed with you earlier that when we say Gahadaval, okay, this is an important Rajput dynasty in North India. Rajput dynasty in North India. Their phase of imperial dominance is 11th 12th century, and what they did is that one of the famous ruler of this Gahadaval dynasty, the name of this ruler is Jaychand. Okay, what he did, he resisted Muhammad Ghori, Turkish invasion. He resisted Muhammad Ghori. Okay, so there were conflicts with these Gahadavali rulers when Muhammad Ghori was invading India. Okay, so looking at this entire discussion, we reach at this conclusion that none of these states belong to this early 8th century AD. Okay, so what will be the answer if you consider these dynasties? And the question is, how many of the above dynasties established their kingdoms in the early 8th century AD? The answer will be none. So this will be the answer of this question. Okay. So while solving the answer, what you have to do, you have to first what you should try to do is to make a smart guess. Okay. For example, if you have studied one portion well ancient Indian history, and if you make a smart guess, you can easily reach at the conclusion. You can easily solve the answer, right?